Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my review now for The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 15. And this episode's called East, which kind of fits the name of the episode considering what happens. Let's do one thing. That is one thing I always like about this episode, is every title at least fits the theme of the episode. And this episode came out on March 27th, 2016. And this episode I thought was really good. It's the exact episode that it should have been to really build to the season finale. At least I thought so, anyways. Um, so yeah, this episode, let me just kind of talk about it. So this episode kicked off with Kalo, and this was prior, a little bit before. I mean, it didn't really kick off that way, but I'm just going to kind of talk about how it started in my mind. And like I said, I do the reviews how I want to. So, but this was prior to when she had left in the last episode, so this was kind of showing you how all that came to be. Tobin comes in and kind of reveals the news about Denise and stuff like that, and Carol's not really listening. And after about, a night or so, um, Carol has left the town, and then you see Tobin basically has read the note in the viewpoint of his view. And it plays this montage using the theme song "It's All Over" by Johnny Cash, which was a good song. I've heard the song before, anyways, and you see things happen in this montage, like Dale's gearing up, like he's ready to do something for, like he's looking for revenge. You see other things happen, like Glenn and Maggie taking a shower together, and Glenn finds Maggie um, all kind of bruised up a little bit. You see Sasha and Abraham really getting along together, stuff like that. Then Rick and Michonne are seen together, and um, Michonne and Rick are basically were having sex with each other when we found out that the Hilltop crew came through with the deal that they got food for weapons, but they're kind of still questionable about the Hilltop group. Worried that there's going to be an attack that happens, and they're also worried about that there's going to be an attack by the Saviors. That was kind of the whole key in this episode that they were kind of slowly alluding to, and um, you know, basically Rick tells Michonne that if there is an attack, we'll be ready for it because now the group's ready, and no one's going to take this world and community from us. This world is ours, and we're not ready to give it up. And I like that scene overall. It wasn't anything special, but it was a good scene. And then it kind of basically breaks off into two storylines. There's one, and then there's another. I'm going to talk about, and then there's like a little third little storyline that's sprinkled in there, but it really didn't play much of a factor in this episode. I'm assuming it will in the next episode because of how significant it was. But Tobin comes in and shows the note that, well, Tobin goes to Rick and shows the note that Carol wrote, and Rick gets worried and he wants to go out and find her. He's asking her a bunch of questions, and we found out that Carol took one of the cars because Tobin said that they had acquired a couple of new vehicles and they didn't see one of them. And Rick is gonna go. Morgan was gonna go out and look for him, and Rick went with him. And we find out that Carol took one of the cars that had like a ton of spikes and spears and stuff through it, and a couple of people stop her. Now, obviously, we knew that these people were the saviors from a few episodes ago, and I like the scene a lot. The saviors force Carol to come out, and they ask who she is and everything, and Carol lies. She acts like that, like she's really weak and that good woman. She's got the Catholic cross with her, and she makes up her name. I think it was Nancy something, and she makes up where she came from because she doesn't want them to know who she really is, and she just acting like she's begging for mercy. And I love it when Carol does that. It makes her look awesome. And one of them we found out its name was Hero. I don't think that was actually, no, Giro. See, Well, no, Hero, because I think the J is silent, but I'm not really sure. Um, and there was like a few guys, but I only heard one of them's name, so it's not really proper grammar, but whatever. So this person figures out that Hero figures out that Kale came from Alexandria, and they wanted to take Kale as a hostage, so that way they would let him into Alexandria, and they were going to attack the place. Um, and they act like they were going to kidnap her, and Kale is acting like she's begging for mercy not to be killed. And then somebody shoots them and murders all of them. And we find out that Kale had um, a gun hidden in her sweatshirt sleeve or jacket sleeve. And I thought that was kind of clever. I thought that was very smart. Like I said, that's like the one thing I like the best about Carol's character. She acts very weak, and people look at her very, very sweet. But then when she has to, she will play this game and turn into like this killer in a sense. And I love it. But one of them actually didn't die, so him and Kale get into a shootout, and Kale spears, uh, drives a spear right through him, and um, yeah, then Kale has Hero come out, and we don't actually see what happens, but we hear we hear a gunshot go off, and we don't really know what happens to Kale. We don't know if she was murdered. We don't know if she murdered him. We don't know what happens. I kind of like that they kind of left that cliffhanger there, and they showed this in the beginning of the episode before the intro, like um, just the carnage of it. We didn't actually see it happen, and I kind of like the way they kind of um, the writers um, kind of put all the pieces together when the event actually happened. So I actually like this. This was a thumbs up. So then when Rick and Morgan, I almost said Rick and Morty, but that's a different show. Rick and Morgan um, find this stuff, and Rick finds out that they were saviors, and they don't know what happened to Carol, and Rick is um, concerned that she's either survived and ran off or that she died. And Morgan points out a trail that was left that she's walked through, so Rick and Morgan take the trail. Now, another thing they kept kind of going to is they kind of went back to the conflict that Rick and Morgan have with each other, where Morgan doesn't want to kill anybody and believes all life is precious, but Rick reveals that he doesn't want to take any chances and will kill people if he has to. And they did, and earlier, just before this scene happened, and I think before the KO scene happened, but I'm not really necessarily sure. Rick and Morgan kind of went back to that. Morgan was questioning Rick about why he chose to come, and he was kind of blaming Rick himself for starting this war with the Saviors, because had he not go murder them, they wouldn't be dealing with this stuff now. He even brought up in season 4 how Carol, when there was the 2 sick people at the prison, had burnt them and killed them, and how he banished Carol from the group, and then obviously Carol ended up coming back, and because she was family. They did stuff like Morgan was telling Rick the reason Carol left was because she couldn't kill anymore, and Rick says that she does kill when she has to. They did stuff like that. I liked that story that they kept going back to that, because it was, I thought, a nice story. I liked the story. I liked that storyline, and this is like the first time they really done anything like big with it. They've been kind of slowly doing it, but then they kind of went away from it for a while, and they really fully went back to it in this episode. So throughout the rest of this episode, at least this story, we were wondering whether or not Kale, we were what if Kale was alive or not, and we see a zombie that looked like Kale from the back, and we find out that it wasn't her, and I think Rick or Morgan killed it, and they go by this bone, and we see a guy running away from zombies, and Rick and Morgan force this guy to come out. Morgan tells him that they're looking for Kalo, but they don't really mention Kalo's name. And the guy tells him that he was trying to find his horse. And Rick doesn't really believe him. He thinks he's looking for Kalo as well. He's one of the saviors. So the guy runs out, and Rick tries to shoot him, but Morgan stops him. And Rick was worried that this guy either was part of the Saviors or the Hilltop crew, or group, I should say. And Morgan gets mad at him that he tried to murder him when he didn't even know who he was. So Rick tells him, I don't take chances anymore. He said that in the beginning of this season. So I like that they kind of went back to that. And Morgan then reveals that when the wolf people attacked the group, that how he left one of them alive. And he said that had Morgan not killed that guy, since Morgan left him alive, the wolf was able to save Denise, which allowed Denise to be able to save Carl when he had his eye shot out. And he talks about how it all was a circle of life. And Morgan wants Rick to go back to Alexandria and go take care of everybody there for when the Saviors attack, or the Hilltop group attacks. And he'll find Kalo. And Rick accepts. He gives Morgan a gun. And Morgan won't take it, but Rick tells him to take it, and he takes it. So I don't know if that's gonna set up anything or not. Probably not. It was just supposed to be symbolic for something. And then Rick says that funny line where Michonne did steal that protein bar. I thought that was funny because they did that subtle funny thing in the beginning of the season, which I trashed because it didn't really make any sense. But I still thought that was a little bit funny, so I liked it. Then Rick goes back to the town, and him and Abraham have like a little bit of a conversation because Abraham's asking if you're afraid to start caring about people again, since him and Michonne are a recent relationship. And Rick says that he's ready, and they talk about how they're going to be ready for an attack when it comes. Then, as this storyline was going on, the next storyline was just before Rick and Tobin had that conversation. Glenn, Maggie, and Michonne were gearing up, getting ready for a fight with just in case they needed to. And they see Dale go out in his motorcycle, and obviously he wants to go out for revenge against Dwight. So he rides out of the town, and Glenn, Michonne, and Rosita go after him, because Rosita goes after him because he actually knows where he's going, since she was there when Denise was murdered. So they go to where Denise was murdered. Michonne finds Dale had hit his motorcycle, and because I'm assuming he knew people were going to go after him, and Dale, Rosita thinks that they should let Dale do it, but Glenn kind of throws out all the worst possibilities that could happen, so they still continue to go. Dale almost murders Rosita with his crossbow, and Glenn tells Dale to come home. He says that they can that we could come up with a better plan, because if you just do this, you're going to get yourself killed. And Dale doesn't want to. He's mainly doing this for himself because he didn't kill the guy when he had a chance. He didn't kill Dwight when he had the opportunity to. Then he feels like he's somewhat responsible for starting this war. So Rosita wants to help him, and Glenn and Michonne go back. Glenn has this big speech talking about how him and Dale have been through everything together, and they were just kind of brought together just because of what the state world is in, and they've always been able to handle it. But now we may not be able to handle this, and he hopes that Glenn doesn't kill the Savior in a sense. That way they can find out stuff about him. Then we hear this whistling going on, and we see a bunch of Saviors pop up. Dwight is one of them, and he kidnaps Glenn and Michonne. And then I'm going to get to the end because I want to, because the ending is the best part. So then the next thing is Eden has been helping out Maggie a lot more, and she cuts Maggie's hair because Maggie basically wants to, that's usually a sign that you kind of want to get rid of your past, so that's what happened. She doesn't cut her completely blonde, but cuts it short. I don't really like her as much with short hair. I think she looks better with long hair, but that's just me. And then something's wrong with the baby. I don't know exactly what it is. I tried to look it up because I don't really know a lot about this type of stuff, but it really wasn't very specific about it when I was looking it up either. So it's really tough to say. And then, so yeah, obviously that's planting a seed for something there. And then, um, Dale and Rosita try to save Glenn and Michonne, but Dwight pops up behind him and says, "Hi, Dale," shoots him, and then tells Dale that he's gonna be okay. So this was supposed. So I like this ending because it gave you, it left you that question, um, well, whether or not Dale had survived or not. So I like that, and obviously this really I think did a good job of setting the season finale. I hope the season finale is actually going to be like a legitimate season finale where I'm not going to be disappointed with it, but only time will tell. Um, but overall, I thought this episode was a really good episode. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it really did a good job, planted a lot of seeds going in for storylines going into the season finale. And obviously, I really hope the season finale delivers. I just looked it up, and it's like over an hour long, so I'm assuming they're going to do something big in this season finale. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm really looking forward to it. So now that I've kind of reviewed the episode and stuff, let me go watch it so I can do the review for it. I'm not gonna do any plugs because I'm gonna come right back and do the review.